Alright, man, peace. As many of you brothers out there know, when Michael Jordan first came into the NBA in 1984, he helped to create a series of new paradigms. There really was a paradigm shift in the NBA when it came to how their athletes were marketed. And like most new things that are evolutionary and revolutionary, it was met with resistance and envy. Many of the players who played during Michael Jordan's era, his quote-unquote peers, they had a certain sense of resentment towards him because they believed that he was the recipient of accolades before their time. Prior to Michael Jordan, you didn't have too many top shelf basketball players who had sneaker contracts, especially at that young of an age. The consensus belief was, and understandably so, that you had to actually accomplish something, both as an individual player and team success, in order for you to deserve to be the recipient of that level of attention and adoration. So that's where a lot of the antipathy started between Michael Jordan and many of his peers. And it still exists to this day because on top of the resentment that many of Jordan's peers had for him due to the attention that he received early on in his career, it's also relatively obvious to me that, there were certain players who, were embittered by the fact that they felt compelled by the networks and by the league to lavish Jordan with an inordinate amount of praise before its due time. Many of these guys feel like they were quote unquote forced to say that Jordan was the best player in the NBA or the best player of all time when they didn't really feel that way. Many people might not know this or understand this, but as early as 1991, the NBA, the NBC, and the Nike marketing machine were propagating the notion that Michael Jordan was the greatest player ever. Now, fortunately for them, he was able to fulfill that, that prophecy about who he would be considered as a player. But for them to be saying that back in 1991, of course, was ridiculous, to say the least. And I think that there are still the vestiges of that anger and that bitterness from certain players who played in the era with Michael Jordan, who say to themselves, yeah, he won 6 championships and 5 MVPs and all those things, but when I was in my prime, he couldn't do shit against me or against us. That's how they justify their envy in their mind. Because at the end of the day, what Michael Jordan was able to accomplish in the 90s, just in the 90s, was a Hall of Fame career in and of itself, and enough to justify his place as the quote-unquote greatest player ever. If we were just to go by what Jordan did from 84 to 1990 and say, Jordan has suffered a catastrophic injury in 1990 where he could no longer play. If we were to just evaluate his career from 84 to 1990, he would have been considered the NBA's version of Gale Sayers. You understand? The best player in the league individually, but unfortunately not able to parlay that into team success. But he would have been like a mythic figure. But when you add on what he did in the 90s, that's what makes him the best player ever. But once again, many players were almost compelled, if not forced, to call him the best player ever from as early as the late 1980s, early 1990s. And that is the reason why so many of those players today try to use LeBron James as a counterbalance to Michael Jordan and attempt to prove that, in their view, LeBron James is the quote-unquote greatest player ever. They don't really believe that. It's just an attempt to assault, the edifice that has been created in dedication to Michael Jordan as this unchallenged greatest player ever. Clyde Drexler, Isiah Thomas, they go out of their way to try to lavish LeBron James with that level of praise because they want to attack Jordan. And this has led, once again to this video here in which I watched this segment, and Isiah Thomas, arguably the greatest little man to ever play in the NBA, says that LeBron James, or at least he co-signs the notion that LeBron James is the NBA player who popularized the quote-unquote Logo 3, or he brought the quote-unquote Logo 3 into the NBA. Now we all know that the person who pretty much has changed the way offenses approach that side of the basketball floor is Stephen Curry when it comes to using the three-point shot as a primary weapon. The reason why Stephen Curry gets so much credit, especially for taking long-range threes, is not just because of the attempts, but because of the proficiency. Stephen Curry for his career is something like a 45% three-point shooter. And I believe that his percentages from 30 feet and beyond are just as good, if not even better, than his overall career shooting percentage. That's what makes Stephen Curry such a mythic figure, a mythic legend. But as we're going to see over this segment, Isiah Thomas and, of course, LeBron's biggest fanboy, Shannon Sharpe, are going to try to prove that it's LeBron who actually not only brought but popularized the logo three-point shot. So they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Highlight video went viral showcasing LeBron's ability to make deep logo threes throughout his career, with a caption referencing that the King was making these shots before players like Steph Curry or Dame Lillard made them famous.
Right, but here's the thing. And what you'll find is that many of those logo threes that LeBron is taking were during his first tenure in Cleveland, when he had carte blanche to take whatever shot he wanted. But beyond that, the difference between LeBron James taking these type of shots as opposed to Stephen Curry and also Dame Lillard is that I would promise you that 98, 99% of these logo threes that LeBron James is taking are coming at the end of the shot clock or the end of the quarter. Stephen Curry takes those type of shots with 15 seconds left on the shot clock, with 8 minutes left in the quarter.
And bluntly informing all of his followers, quote, "Let it be known."
Let it be known, I'm still angry at Michael Jordan.
Shannon, does LeBron deserve more credit for this?
Let it be known. Let the church say amen. Amen. Yeah, Skip Bailey, you see that. Now, I will concede that might be the biggest logo in the history. The Cleveland logo, Skip, took up half the court. But yeah, LeBron does deserve some credit. Skip, can he shoot it with the consistency like a Dame, like a Steph Curry? No.
That shot right there was at the end of the half. Like, I don't count these type of shots. If you're taking a 30-foot, 35-foot three-point shot at the end of the quarter, at the end of the half, or with 1 second left on the shot clock, I don't count those shots as legitimate logo threes. When I think of logo threes, I think of where Dame Lillard or Stephen Curry pull up from with 15 seconds left on the shot clock in the flow of the game. They're allowed to do that. And really, to this day, they're the only two players who are consistently allowed to take those type of shots.
This notion that those guys started shooting that shot is not true, because he was shooting that shot before those guys got into the league.
Right, but we can go from before LeBron James and talk about players like Dana Barros or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who were doing that back in the 90s. If we're going to play that game of who's been taking long three-point shots for deeper in the past. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he deserves some credit. Is he as great a three-point shooter? No, nobody's going to say that. But give the guy some credit. It's like we give Sammy Baugh credit for the forward pass. Is he as great as Tom Brady? Or...
Look at Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless said, where'd that name come from? Sammy Baugh. I remember I used to have one of those NFL highlight films, where they would go through the history of the NFL, and they showed Slinging Sammy Baugh play with the Washington Redskins. A lot of those guys who played back in the 50s, if you brought them to today and, they had the coaching and the PEDs that these guys have today, they'd be putting up major numbers, man.
But he deserves some credit, right? Yeah.
No, but that's just the forward pass. It's not a harder pass than Tom Brady threw.
That harder.
One like Sammy Baugh said, I'm going to throw 100-yard passes.
No, it was like, I'm going to throw the ball. He's like, I'm going to shoot it from the low, but a 22-foot three won't do me justice.
Hey, yeah, why he said that shit like he a pastor in church? It won't do me justice. Let me rewind this shit back.
I'm going to throw the ball. He's like, I'm going to shoot it from the low, but a 22-foot three won't do me justice. I'm going to pull up from 35 and let it be known.
Let it be known that you're a bricklayer.
Oh, Skip.
Okay. You finished?
Yep.
You did not hear an amen from this.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil, Skip Bayless. That's it. Let me tell you, man, when Skip be on these LeBron topics, he tells nothing but the absolute truth.
But I'm about to provide the benediction for this argument, because in the end, I would like to share some numbers with you. For LeBron's career from the logo, he has made 24%. That's actually, from the logo, pretty great. But that means it's a horrible shot that he's made far too few of. He's
Right, but we have to evaluate it based on context. That's why I stated, I believe that the vast majority of these quote-unquote logo threes that he gets credit for starting, he took those shots at the end of the quarter or at the end of the half, or at the end of the shot clock. Because, most of those shots that he's going to get credit for were prior to the Stephen Curry era.
157. Mm-hmm. So if you do the math, he's missed way, way, way too many logo threes because it's a hard shot that doesn't benefit the team. It only benefits the mystique of one LeBron James.
And that's the point of this segment, as Skip Bayless has deciphered so well. This is just another attempt to add quote-unquote mystique to LeBron James. He started the three-point shooting from long range. Give me a fucking break. Mark Price was taking long threes from the late 80s, early 90s. Shit, I remember Dan Marley, Thunder Dan, would take long threes. He hit like a 40-foot or a 35-foot three-point shot in the finals back in '93 against the Bulls in Game 4, right before the half.
The one he hit on the Pelican.
Yeah, well, when he's missing that many of them, it doesn't deflate anybody except the Cavaliers. In his first 3 years in the league, when he was inventing the logo three, guess what he was? From the logo, he was 0 for his first 18 in the NBA. 0 for 18. Yeah. So he's just jacking them up from ridiculously long range, and he's hitting nothing. He is 0 for his first 18, and it's hurting nothing but the Cavaliers, not the opposition.
Well, Skip Bayless, why you bringing up old shit? You're talking about the first 3 years. Okay, let's talk about the last 20 years he's been in the league. Been in the league 23 years. Bring up the last 20 years, Skip Bayless.
18, then all of a sudden something happened.
Yeah, I guess. In his first 7 seasons, that first run in Cleveland, he wound up shooting 15%, 8 of 52 in his first 7 years in the league. So he started to hit a few of them, but only a few of them. And the highlights only remind you of the few, the very few that he hit. So these are nothing but for show, as in showing off. The only purpose of...
No, they're not for showing off, Skip Bayless. A lot of times Skip needs a little help understanding what the hell's going on. He's good with the LeBron topics, but he's getting a bit long in the tooth. So sometimes his deciphering, his discernment is a bit skewed. As we can see here, the long range shot that LeBron took was to end the half. I promise you, 98% of the logo threes or the long threes that LeBron James has taken, especially before he went to Miami, were at the end of the shot clock or the end of the quarter clock.
To enhance the image, to polish the mystique of one LeBron James. You know this, and I know this.
We didn't say they're a high percentage shot, but people are pretending that Steph and Dame created this.
Well, Dame didn't create anything. It's Stephen Curry who popularized it. I don't think that you can claim that anyone, quote unquote, created it. But Stephen Curry is the one who popularized it because he was so proficient from long range. So as we can see, Shannon Sharpe is trying to, he's trying to put forth the argument that LeBron James started the quote-unquote logo three. Even in this game that they're showing the highlight here, at the very bottom, the graphic is a bit cut off, but this was a game against the Knicks. You can see it says New York either has 24 or 34 points. Cleveland has 41 points. First quarter is 2.4 seconds left when LeBron is pulling up. So once again, it's at the end of the quarter. Those shots to me don't count as logo threes.
Is that LeBron was shooting this shot before then.
Okay, I'll give you this. He was the first to try this shot.
And he made it. And that's what they call it. You remember the...
Right here is at the end of the shot clock. The previous shot was at the end of the quarter.
They call it when he shoot that at the Hunger Game, catch fire.
The Hunger Games?
Bam! Yeah. You see that? Look at him pulling up, bro.
Hunger Games, he was killing his own team.
Yeah. They all see his weight in his arms. Look at him where he pulling up, bro.
Pretty.
Look at this, Skip.
Is this part of the 8 for 52 that he was making his first time in Cleveland?
You're a hater, too.
And I will say this to your point. That logo is it's almost touching the three-point line. But I'll give you that. He was still 0 for 18. So, for LeBron's career, from 3, he is 34.5%. I got to tell you, for a player of that magnitude, that is horrible.
That's great.
Great?
Yeah.
Steph is career 43.3. Do you realize how much more that is?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. If you don't mind me asking, since you got stats over there, can you tell me what Michael Jordan...
Truth over here.
What is Michael Jordan and Kobe?
I don't care.
From the 3.
I just don't care. They did not emphasize the 3.
But when they did...
Well, in Jordan's era, they didn't. In Kobe's era, they did emphasize the three. Kobe only retired 5 years ago, Skip Bayless. Kobe Bryant was a terrible three-point shooter who just kept jacking up shots. Once again, most overrated all-time great superstar of all time. Was Kobe an all-time great? Absolutely. Was he a superstar? Absolutely. Was he the most overrated all-time great superstar in the history of the NBA? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, if you listen to some of his fanboys, they'll try to tell you that he was number 2 after Jordan or might have been greater than Jordan. You bring up names like Moses Malone or Dr. J or Oscar Robertson. People don't even know the impact that those players had. Dr. J scored over 30,000 points, and he didn't play as many years as Kobe Bryant played. Like, you bring Dr. J to today's era with, some of the offensive systems and the onus on taking the three-point shot and some of the coaching that's involved, the individualized coaching for shooting and ball handling, things of that sort. Dr. J would have been out of this world, man. I mean, he was out of this world as the player that he was. Again, people just poo-poo these other players to throw Kobe Bryant above them. And it's a disservice to Kobe and to those other players. But to get back to the point, no, Kobe was not a good three-point shooter. He was a great streak shooter.
This guy emphasizes it. He shoots it like crazy.
I just asked him.
He shot the most of his career last year for the Lakers. It's like, because it's the fastest way to catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Since I started off, and let me give you a little devotional right here.
Okay.
Well, Kobe Bryant and LeBron and Michael Jordan have a lower three-point percentage than one GOAT James.
Okay. From the free throw line, it's a much easier shot than the logo shot. He is 73% for his career, and for the last 5 years, he's been under 70%. That is embarrassing for a player of this magnitude. So don't give me logos when there's a shot that's about half the length of that one that is free. It's called a free throw, and you get to stand there unguarded by yourself with your hands going like this.
Yes.
Skip said LeBron's hands are shaking at the free throw line.
Even with all the free throws missed, even with all the free throws, even the poor three-point percentage, the guy got the third most points in NBA history.
It's called longevity.
Hold on.
Yep.
Whoa.
It's called durability until this past.
So let me ask you a question. So is that what you said about Tom Brady? All these records, is it because of durability, or is he good?
I don't talk about Tom's records. I just talk about the Super Bowls. I don't care about him passing degrees.
And to Skip Bayless's point, when they do have these Tom Brady debates, Skip never brings up Tom's individual stats. All he does is bring up, the winning element that Tom brings to the game. Shannon and most LeBron James fanboys, they have to try to poo-poo winning the championship because they know that argument's not in their favor. If LeBron was 7-3 or 8-2 in the finals, they would never stop talking about it. But since he's not, they have to make it about finals appearances.
He's on course to pass Drew Brees for the all-time yardage at Foxborough in Game 4.
So, hold on. Is it because of the longevity, or is he great? Because you make it seem like LeBron James isn't great. The only reason he's doing all this is because he's played a long time.
Okay, but one guy's 7-3 in Super Bowls. The other guy's 4-6 in the NBA Finals.
Is he undefeated?
Ugh.
See, because the argument is you tell me.
I just made the case earlier to you that Belichick cost him 2 of those 3. Cost him. The defense didn't show up.
They showed up. If I hold a team to 17 points, I've shown up. You didn't show up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you did exactly what you always do, which is a game-winning drive.
AD said, I know this man ain't shooting this ball from here.
And if you pay very close attention, as usual, the producers of this TV show, they're in the know, as are both of these hosts. The conversations that they have are meant to be two-dimensional because they understand that 99.999% of the viewing audience is two-dimensional. Or are two-dimensional. They're two-dimensional thinkers. As you can see on the right-hand side of the display, it's LeBron James throwing up the quote-unquote OK or the 666 hand sign with both hands, right? So they're helping you understand, who LeBron James really is behind the scenes. And of course, everything I'm saying is alleged.
Did that?
Yeah, he did that against Denver that saved you in the bubble. That's with AD shot. They're for show, and they look great, and you can string them together in a highlight video, and you say, Oh, he's the GOAT.
No, nobody said that. Nobody said that. That's not what what Isiah said.
Right, but that's what he's trying to imply. And Skip Bayless understands that. Skip knows that the reason why Isiah Thomas is co-signing that video is because Isiah Thomas has a vendetta against Michael Jordan. It just is what it is.
Be known
that he shot 24% from the logo in his career. 24%. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That means not a good shot.
Let it be. Of course not. The logo shot is not a good shot for anyone.
Well, for Steph,
What's Steph shooting from the logo?
I don't know.
He ain't shooting 40%.
No.
I'd be willing to bet that Steph's shooting percentage from the logo is high 30s, maybe even low 40s. I can remember seeing stats that showed that Stephen Curry was a better three-point shooter from the logo and beyond than he was near the line, near the three-point line.
No, it's 35%.
No, it ain't
good enough.
But anyway, Skip, all AD is saying, all Isiah is saying is that let it be known that someone did something before someone else.
Well, Isaiah's trying to make the point that he invented it. And remember, Isaiah's agenda is...
Oh, there you go. I knew you were saying.
Isaiah just doesn't like Michael. I don't know why.
What they got to do?
Come on now. We know why Isiah Thomas is not like Michael. I already broke it down at the start of the video. He and many other players from that era were resentful towards Jordan because they thought that he was the recipient of certain platitudes and certain accolades before the time. And that's what they were so upset about. And eventually it became a personal vendetta between Isiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, where Isiah felt like he was compelled to try to stop Jordan from winning a championship. And when Jordan finally broke through, that's why Isiah was not man enough to acknowledge the fact that Michael broke through, and he skulked off the court. And he still has not gotten over it to this day. Isiah Thomas is on camera saying that he's a sore loser. He's a very, very sore loser. And no disrespect, how you deal with adversity many times provides some insight into your character. Not saying that Isiah Thomas is a bad person per se, but how you deal with things like that sometimes could be, a window into your character as a person. So that's the real motivation behind this whole thing. And kudos to Skip Bayless for saying it on TV.
Never shoot the ball from the logo.
Because Michael is the runaway, unquestioned GOAT, and Isiah just rankles him. It just rubs him the wrong way. So he's trying to make a GOAT case for LeBron from the logo, and it's a horrible case.
I mean, think about this here. Isiah got winning records. Isiah had to play against Dr. J, Kareem, Magic, Bird, Mike.
When Isiah got into the NBA, Dr. J was already in his early 30s. So let's not count that one. I mean, Dr. J retired before the Pistons even won their first championship.
Records. He got rid
I love Isiah.
No, you don't. No,
I do love him.
You don't like him.
I love Isiah too. It's just the truth is the truth.
Brady, because did he just get...
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. Peace.